Well, the Mets' tailspin continues, and Diaz blows his third game of the week. The Mets have lost 7 of 10. It's all falling apart. It's a complete disaster for the Mets. They're now 5 games under 500. They have lost 2 straight games to the Marlins, who are the worst team in baseball. And Diaz is just, listen, the bottom line is he's not the same pitcher, right? He's blown now 3 games this week. He blew the game earlier this week when he had a 2-run lead. Today he came in with a 4-run lead. They brought him in just to get some confidence back with a 4-run lead, and he blew it. He gave up the 3-run home run to Josh Bell. And listen, it's all falling apart from the Mets. And you got the owner tweeting about selling everybody off and breaking. And listen, he shouldn't have deleted the tweet, because the tweet's right. The tweet's the right thing to do. I get that he doesn't want to say it now, and he doesn't want to say it on Twitter, but don't give me that whole, well, I didn't mean it. He actually tweeted that he was going to blow it all up at the trade deadline. And then he came back and he was like, no, I love this team. I think we could do good. No, you don't. You just told us that you were going to blow it up. And that's the right thing to do. Why pull it back? Why lie now? We all agree this whole thing needs to be blown up. Diaz can't be closing for this team right now anymore. He said in the locker room after the game that he has no confidence in himself. The Mets clearly they're clearly not going anywhere, right? They're only 5 games under 500, but they're losing games now. They've lost now 7 of 10, and they're ugly losses. They played the Phillies. They lost. They played the Marlins. Now they lost. They're 12 games out of first place. The Marlins have won 4 in a row, and they only have 15 wins. And that's winning 4 in a row. The Phillies and the Braves have run away with the division already. The Phillies are 4 games ahead of the Braves, and the next Washington is 11 back. The Mets are 12 back. Look, don't even bother looking at the standings, because it's not going to matter. They couldn't even get us to Memorial Day this year. The Knicks and the Rangers are still playing, for crying out loud. You gotta have you can't be putting Diaz in anymore. You gotta figure something out. He's not the same pitcher since the injury. He's lost velocity off his pitches. He can't spot his slider. And when he's not throwing it 101 miles an hour and he can't spot his slider, that's what happens. They hit the ball over the fence. That's what happened against the Phillies earlier this week. That's what happened tonight. That was a long home run by Josh Bell over dead center field. And Diaz is the least of the Mets' worries. They got some hits today, but they do what bad teams do. When they pitch well, they don't score. When they score a bunch, they don't pitch well. I had said before that they're a typical 500 team because they were hovering around 500 and they were doing okay. But they're not. They're worse than a 500 team. They really are. And the owner coming out and embarrassing himself this week with the tweet thing. I mean, the kid tweeted to the owner, to Cohen, said, you got to blow this thing up. It's terrible. Your team stinks. And he said, don't worry. I can't do anything now. But when the trade deadline comes, we're gonna take care of it. And then he realized that it went out. He realized, like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And he came in the next day and he said, well, that's not what I want to do. I love this team. I love the guys. No, you don't. Because you wouldn't have tweeted that, even if you were putting that in a private message to that kid. It's still the truth. And you think that kid wouldn't have put that right out on blast as soon as you sent it to him in a DM? Classic embarrassment of the Mets. They're classic embarrassment right now. It's the classic Mets, and they couldn't even get us to Memorial Day, and it's ridiculous. And like I said, Diaz is the least of the problems. because now the pitching's starting to come back down to earth. Severino pitched well today. And Severino has been okay. He's had trouble walking batters. He's had trouble with his control. And that's what the problem was today. But Severino's been decent. The bullpen's been good. But like Quintanilla, he's terrible. He's got a 5-something ERA. Senga is, what did I tell you? Senga. I told you July, right? I said the second he got hurt, I said July. And everyone goes, no, it's going to be 3-4 weeks. Well, here we are now, coming up on 2 months. And they came out 2 days ago and they said he's making progress. Which July. That's when you're going to see Senga, July. And then you're going to have the whole Alonso thing come up, and Alonso's going to have to go. You know, maybe you trade him, and maybe you sign him. If he really wants to be here, you sign him back. But to be honest with you, nobody should be safe at the trade deadline. And that includes Lindor, and that includes McNeil and Alonso and everybody. Because this team stinks. Because they're 5 games under 500 now, and it's only going to get worse. Lindor is hitting 190. It's now almost June. He's had 200 at-bats. Or close to 200 at-bats. 180 at-bats he's had. He's hitting 190. His OPS is 617. He's making $30 million. That's the problem with this, is you're not even going to get much for these guys. Now, Lindor, you might get a little bit more because he has a couple years left. Alonso's not exactly tearing it up. Alonso's hit better, a little bit recently, a little bit more power. But this team, and in the field with Lindor, they can't play the field either. So they can't catch, they can't throw, they can't pitch, they can't hit. The manager's in over his head, and the owner is an idiot. They're lucky to be only 5 games under 500. And the only reason why it hasn't been highlighted and they haven't been getting destroyed is because the Knicks and the Rangers are making deep playoff runs. Nobody cares about the Mets today. Nobody cares that the Diaz blew a 4-run lead. Because there's a game 7 tomorrow at the Garden. Because there's a game 1 of a conference final on Wednesday for the Rangers. Besides that, nobody cares. But when this run ends for the Knicks and the Rangers, then they're center stage, and then it's a disaster. And the Mets are going to already be 20 games out of first place. Not that we thought they were winning first place, because they weren't. But they're going to be 8 games, 9 games out of the last wild card, too. The whole thing is a disaster. And it sucks because we're not going to have a summer here as far as the Mets go. Because this thing's not getting better. It's not going to get better. You watch, they're going to fall in another 2 weeks. They'll be 10 games under 500. And then they'll get it between 10 and 5. And then before you know it, they'll be 15. And then the trade deadline will come. And forget about buying. Steve Cohen's already told you he's selling. He's already made up his mind. And it's the right thing to do. This team stinks. McNeil since he won the batting title, McNeil hasn't done anything. They can't bunt anybody to get the runner over. They can't close games. They have a losing record when they enter the ninth with a lead. Diaz has blown 3 saves this week. That light show is going to get real embarrassing real fast. When there's 7,500 people in the ballpark and you're blasting the lights and the trumpets, people, you think they're laughing at the Mets now. Wait till then. And you're hanging your whole future on a bunch of prospects in Double-A. I mean, prospects are they're hit or miss. There's nothing sure thing about a prospect. And as Mets fans, we all know that. And we're hanging our hats on a kid whose name recognition because his brother is a great player. And some pitchers. Because Beatty doesn't look great. When Beatty came up, Beatty, he's hitting 230. He's got 14 RBIs. And he can't field the position at third base. It's a bad team, and it's only going to get worse. And the spotlight's going to hit them once the Knicks and the Rangers is done. And then the manager's going to be in trouble. Because you know what? He's in over his head, too. Some of these moves he makes are just brain numbing. You're like, what are you doing? I get putting Diaz in today because I know it wasn't a save opportunity, but you put Diaz in just so we could get a couple outs and the whole thing blows up. And he told you after the game he has zero confidence in himself, so you can't run him back out there. He can't close for this team right now, at least. And that whole light show with that's going to be that you're going to come back to regret that. Because that's going to be ugly in August and September when the Mets are 25 games under 500 and you're running that light show out there, the trumpets. They're going to be laughing at us. So, Steve Cohen, I know he came here. I know he has all the money in the world. He tried to buy it last year or 2 years ago. It didn't work. Last year it fell apart. He promised you the title within 5 years. This is year 4. We're not even close to the playoffs, let alone a championship. Kind of like the Knicks that have just been replaced by the Mets as at the low, the bottom of the totem pole. It's not exactly a great time, right, for a lot of these New York teams. The Giants stink. The Jets, we'll see. You're waiting for the shoe to fall off with the Jets. The Yankees are good or average. The Mets stink. The Islanders stink. The Rangers and Knicks. The winter sports have taken over now. And it's all fine and good now because we got things to watch and it's exciting. You got Game 7 tomorrow. You got the Rangers making a run. But whenever that ends, even if they both win titles, it's going to end in a month. And then you're stuck with this. You're stuck with the trumpets and the light show. And then he comes in and blows games. He's not the same pitcher. And I've said it a million times that I do not trust anybody in the bullpen that's not named Mariano Rivera. No matter who they are, I don't trust them. Now, listen, have Reed Garrett come and close games. You don't have to do closer by committee. Reed Garrett's got a under 1 ERA in 16 appearances. Have him go out there and close some games for a couple weeks, right? Can't kill you. Because you can't keep running Diaz out there. And whatever confidence he has, he's gonna get shelled. He can't locate his pitches. He's not throwing high velocity on the fastball. He's up in the zone. He's too much at the plate. Because look at some of these home runs. These home runs that was a long home run today by Josh Bell. That was 30 feet over the center field wall. They close out. Mets try to prevent the sweep at the hands of the 15-win Marlins tomorrow. Remember, just 5 days ago, the Marlins had 11 wins. 11 wins. They're the worst team in baseball. The Oakland A's are better than the Mets. The Oakland A's, who are basically like the Cleveland Indians from Major League, where the owner's just trying to lose, are winning more games than the Mets. And they're winning more games than the Marlins, and the Marlins are beating the Mets. So that's where we stand. I know we hadn't done Mets in a while, so because of the Knicks and Rangers, big Game 7 tomorrow. Brett and I will be back. We'll be with you tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning, we got the cancer fundraiser in Bayshore. If you're coming to that, come on down. It's going to be a good time. We got the cornhole tournament. Me and Brett, hopefully, we'd like to win it pretty quick, But I wouldn't mind being out because then we could go, watch the Mets game. Watch the Mets game. Watch the Knicks. So hopefully the Knicks and Rangers keep it going because the Mets are a disaster. And some people are going to turn to the Mets and just be like, whoa, when this whole Knicks Ranger run is over. Oh, I haven't been paying attention. I went a week without paying attention, like about 2 weeks ago. And I was like, wow, they lost all the games that week. They've lost 7 of 10. They try to prevent the sweep tomorrow. Severino pitched well today, but we got to the manager left him in too long. 1 inning too long. The Mets had a 9-4 lead in this game, and a 7-3 lead. 7-3 and 9-4, and they blew them both. So that's what's going on in Mets land. It's not pretty, and it's gonna get much, much worse. I figure out. I think it's going to get much worse. What are you going to do? Hopefully these prospects pan out. It's not as easy as you thought it was, Steve Cohen, huh? It's not as easy as you thought. Maybe it wasn't the Wilpons. Enjoy the Knicks game, everybody. I'm Bob Walters. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See ya.